an 8th special presentation.
In this edition of Art Beat Nation, an in-depth look at the complex characters of Downton Abbey.
They're not black or white, they're not goodies or baddies. We can see shades of grey in all of them.
An actor discovers the challenge of being Chaplin.
If you're playing one of the most famous funny mans of all time, that should be hard, so it is.
A painter whose message is front and center.
If I just made beautiful paintings, what I'm trying to get at within the work would be lost.
And students use classroom skills for global good.
We use design as a tool to help these organizations make a positive impact.
It's all ahead on Art Beat Nation. Funding for Art Beat Nation is made possible by contributions to aid from viewers like you. Thank you. Fans of the hit series Downton Abbey might think they know all of the characters as if they were real, but in her new official companion book to the series, author Jessica Fellows takes readers even further into the story, highlighting the characters and the behind-the-scenes drama.
The Chronicles of Downton Abbey is the official tie-in companion book for the television series Downton Abbey, and it's the second book that we've done with the show. And this one is very character-led, so each chapter is headed up by one or two characters, and we took a triple-layered approach to it. So there's a look at the show itself, the series as if it was a live and present thing, which is how it feels when it comes into our TVs on Sunday night. And then we look at how the production kind of brought all that together. So Julian's scripts, the actors and what they think about their own backstories, the art department, hair and costume and all the props and all the rest of it. And then the third layer is the social history, so the context in which everything is set, which demonstrates the authenticity of the show. I mean, what is quite interesting is that I think there's quite a different atmosphere on the set. So Highclere Castle, which is the setting for the house and all the above stairs scenes. I mean, it is a real working house. It's been sitting there like that for the last 400, 500 years or whatever, and there is that real sense of its presence as you arrive, and I think it makes all the actors, I mean, I can feel myself sitting up straighter just talking about it. You kind of have to have that presence in a room, and you talk in a different kind of a way, and you have to have respect for the house. There's a lot of valuables there. I mean, the art department don't put very much in there apart from a few potted palms. I mean, all those things like costumes, they really help, and that's partly why it's so important that everything is authentic in the way that it is. It's not just that it looks right for us, but it helps the actors to sit properly. I mean, the starched collars, particularly for the men, I gather are particularly horrible, kind of rubbing their necks quite raw. The women obviously have the corsets. They've begun to get a little bit easier now for the third season. They're not quite as constricting, and they have this sort of S-bend shape almost in the first season. So now it's more about flattening the figure out. Nevertheless, they all have to wear them and sort of live with that. But that does make them sit in the right way and walk in the right way. I mean, and I think also they've picked it up as they go. I mean, Rob Collier, who plays Thomas, says that he doesn't really like watching scenes from the first season because he thinks he was walking the wrong way. Because they learn you're not supposed to put your hands in your pockets and having to sit up and sit down and stand up. I know they had to reshoot a scene when the historical advisor was away that day, and Matthew Crawley didn't stand up when the Dowager Countess came into the room. They said there was just absolutely no way that could ever have happened. You couldn't possibly air a scene like that, so they had to redo it. Julian said he always begins with the fundamental belief that everybody is good. They start good, and then something may take them off that path along the way. And I think that's what's really interesting about all of the characters, is they're not black or white, they're not goodies or baddies. We can see shades of grey in all of them. I mean, even O'Brien, who's probably the most evil schemer of all, and even Julian would admit that. There are still times when you see her and you think, there is some soft spots in that heart, you know. Now we would probably call her damaged and send her to therapy and things, you know, but then she just had to live her way through it. But I always get asked, what's my favourite character? And it's slightly like selecting your children out, you know, because I've got to know them all so well now. I feel like I've seen them develop over 3 seasons and talk to the actors and talk to the production and, you know, all these sort of details that I know about them, that I kind of love them all in their own special way.
Next, the name Charlie Chaplin conjures images of a bowler hat and a caterpillar mustache, but the actor's career was much bigger than his oversized trousers. Steve Adubato talks to Rob McClure, who plays the mustache man in the Broadway musical Chaplin.
That guy's good. He's right here. He's Rob McClure. He's starring in Chaplin, playing at the Ethel Barrymore Theater. He's an actor, and he is terrific. Good to see you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
What is it like to see yourself starring in Chaplin like that?
It's wild. It's wild. It's profoundly moving every night. You know, people come to this show with expectations. You know, they know that silhouette. They know the hat, the cane, and the mustache. And fans or not, you owe it to that man and that legacy to get that right. It's really an honor to take a stab at it 8 shows a week. So
I want you to share with us a little bit. By the way, you're born and raised in New Jersey.
Yeah, that's right. Just over the bridge.
We're proud to have you.
Oh, thanks.
As someone who's born and raised in Jersey,
I love it.
We see someone make it on Broadway.
Yeah, I got
Anywhere.
my start out there at the Paper Mill and
Paper Mill Playhouse in Millburn.
Yeah, that's right, in Millburn.
I can't even imagine what it's like to be performing, going from Millburn and northern New Jersey to Broadway. But I got to ask you, you were telling me before we got on the air the research you did to understand Chaplin. By the way, Chaplin boot camp.
Yes.
Because he's so physical.
Yes.
You had to learn to roller skate, play the violin, and do the last part.
And tightrope walking.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's
what do you
wild.
mean? You didn't know how to tightrope walk?
I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. And believe it or not, playing the violin is ultimately harder than even the tightrope. It's just it's an instrument you can't hide behind. You're dealing with horsehair, you know, any little nerve they can hear. So, but it was you know, if you're playing one of the most famous funny mans of all time, that should be hard. So it is.
We'll talk about hard. Chaplin grows up in a very poor section of London.
South London, yeah.
Right. And you say in 1913 he comes to Hollywood.
Yeah.
7 years later?
He's the most famous man in the world.
Now, you said, before we got on the air, that you really wanted to understand that journey and understand so much about who he was, which impacted the way he performed. Tell folks some of the things you were telling me that had to do with his physical persona, which was much deeper than what we might have thought.
Yeah, the little tramp character. I desperately wanted to know what was it about that character that was so transcendent that allowed him to become so famous so quickly and so universally. I mean, first of all, they were silent pictures, so they had a universal appeal that is unlike any medium today. You know, we get people at the stage door who are from Eastern Europe and from Japan and from all over the world who tell us you don't realize how much he means to us, because as children growing up, those were the only American movies we could watch because there was no language barrier. And I thought, oh my gosh, of course. So it truly exploded in a universal way that had not been seen before in that medium. And what was it about that character that made people care so much? And I think it was what was underneath the comedy.
So the big pants.
Yeah, big
the
pants,
ill-fitting
big
clothes.
shoes. Yeah, they didn't fit. Not only because it makes a funny silhouette, but because they're not his clothes. He's a homeless nobody living on the street. Pick those clothes out of trash cans. That's why they don't fit. A lot of what goes on underneath that character is from a very sweet, melancholy everyman trying to make it and be taken seriously.
About the hat.
Yeah, he used to tip his hat at people as they would walk past, you know, whether it be the front of the hat or the back of the hat. And we associate that with the comedy and the quirk of that character. But really, the more I watched, the more I realized he was desperately trying to be taken seriously by people. So if he could fool them into thinking he was a dignitary or a wealthy person, or someone would take him seriously. And what's so heartbreaking is he was fooling no one but himself. So you would watch this sweet nobody of a man trying to put one over on people into taking him seriously. And I think that's what really drew people to him.
Talk about drawing people to performers. People are drawn to you. Have not seen it, but everything I've heard, and Paul Levine is in my ear right now, is saying, ask Rob about his abandon when he is performing. And that's why I keep hearing that. You just go for it. What does that really mean?
I think there's a sense of play that comes with theater, and a sense of make-believe. I mean, really, what I think we're doing is playing make-believe in the same way we did when we were 4 or 5. You just get good enough at it that people want to pay to watch you do it. They start believing you are who you're pretending to be. And I think for those 2.5 hours, I'd like to think I am. And what's great is that in those moments in the show when the magic starts to happen and the mustache goes on and the hat goes on and the cane goes, I feel the audience lean in and give me permission to be Charlie Chaplin for those 2 hours. You know what I mean? And it's a huge gift, and I get all of that affection they have for that man and that character put on me, which is such a great honor.
And it was not easy getting this gig. You had 6 callbacks. You fought for this role. Why?
I did. Well, I loved it. I loved the man. I loved his story. He had a wildly complicated life with ups and downs. And yeah, the audition process was intense. I remember for the final callback, it was 5 o'clock on a Monday, and they said, tomorrow, Tuesday, at 10 a.m., come back and have 2 minutes of a 2-minute Chaplin-y thing ready.
A Chaplin-y thing.
A Chaplin-y thing. I said, I don't even know what that means. So I ran home, and I was trying to come up with something, and it was 2:30 in the morning. My wife rolled over in bed and said, well, why don't you bring music so you're not completely hung out to dry with the silence of the room? And I thought, oh, that's good. So I started looking through my phone, and in my classical music playlist, I had Flight of the Bumblebee, and I thought, I'm going to bring that and a fly swatter, and I'll fight an invisible fly and lose. That's it. And I fell asleep. And then the next morning I woke up, I got on the Amtrak train on my way to New York from Boston. I was doing a show in Boston. And I had my headphones and a fly swatter. And I'm sure everyone on the train thought I was out of my mind trying to come up with this bit. And the first time I did it on my feet was in the room for the team. And it went well, I guess.
When you were doing it,
yeah,
and they had to make a decision,
yeah,
how nervous?
Oh, I'm always very, very nervous. Always. And you know, auditioning doesn't get easier. You know, people talk about making it. You know, when I did Avenue Q, I did Avenue Q for 3 years. It was one of the greatest thrills. And they said, you made it. Well, whenever that job ends, you got to make it again.
I love it.
You know what I mean? You got to do it again. So there is that sense. Every audition, you got to go in and give it, and hopefully you're the right fit.
It's no different here. Like, we're making it. We're here at Lincoln Center doing this show. I'm like, hey, I hope this show keeps going. It's like whatever it is you're doing.
That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. And that's also one of the thrilling things about this business is that every show I do, there's a new bag of tricks, and this one especially. You keep adding things to your special skills section of your resume and learning to do crazy puppetry or walking a tightrope or playing the violin, and it allows you to flex different muscles.
I cannot, like I said, I cannot imagine what it's like. To me, like growing up loving the Yankees, it's kind of like playing in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, it's wild.
But I'm just happy for you, and wish you nothing but the best. All
Thanks
the best.
so much, Steve.
Gregory Euclid is not an average landscape painter. In a stunning show of flying pencils and scraping spatulas, he brings his paintings to life. And his intuitive attack on the canvas is almost as breathtaking as the finished piece.
Let the paint kind of act as paint and not appear so representational. I also like the way that it kind of scumbles along the surface.
To a strange world, like a candle you were meant to share the fire. I don't know where we come from, I don't know where we go, but my arms are made to hold you, so I will never let you go, 'cause you were born.
So there's land here, and in the center of this scene, I'm going to create some type of industry that moves in and kind of is built upon that land. The stuff that's around this is going to be more deliberate and organized because it's a city, so city planning is much different than a natural prairie or a forest. I think of it as experience and memory. So when I go out into a forest, I walk through the forest and I'm experiencing these vignettes moment by moment. And by vignettes, I mean there's maybe you walk down a hill and you remember that moment of walking down the hill, or you come across a pond and then you remember seeing that or spending the time there, and then you move on to a new place. And you start to think about the ecosystem in general. It's overwhelming. It's impossible for one person to understand what's even going on in 1 foot of space in the forest. And that complexity and that density has always been a part of my work.
To chase the light, 'cause you were born.
It's like, you think that's just a city? Well, no, it's there used to be oak savanna there, and before the oak savanna, it used to be hunted by, you know, Dakota and Sioux, and before that, it's like the history of spaces we often forget about. This is nature, like dead nature, and then culture. So you've got coffee cups, styrofoam. It's like, this is the perfect blending pot right here. This is like reality, what exists. I've got this type of framework established here, and the water works great because I can go and erase things. So like this area right here, if I spray that up close, you can see that like any paint that was still wet will start to fall away. And you get this pattern of decay, and then having that actually happen on the surface of the painting always seemed interesting. In order to hold them, they need to dry like that. Think about what's represented two-dimensionally and sometimes try to create a complement to it three-dimensionally. This all started by, I made some paintings that had 2 or 3 sheets of paper on it, and I would go through and I would rip through them, and then I'd start painting the next scene onto that, as though it's like a moment in time, and then you pass through the threshold of that moment into the next stage. The paint that dripped down would pool up inside of these like relief areas. I thought, okay, well that relief area then becomes a lake. Well, what's going to happen around a lake? You're going to get, there's water there, so you're going to have growth up around the lake. So it seemed like a rich place to kind of start putting the relief elements in, just having them, you know, stand there like that, because they can't. Because the paper comes out in relief, then the objects can use that as a foothold to start. It's like on the side of a cliff. Any rock that comes out, there's going to be something that's growing on there, whereas on the cliff face, it's much more rare. When I bring sculptural elements in, or like pieces from the land, I have a tendency to think about modes of representation. You have an illusionistic space that's painted where people can go in with their mind. You have a space that actually comes out that people can move around with their body. And then you have these like fake kind of model type materials that are produced on there. Trees that I make from sedum, or like, you know, the architectural type of things. So I started fooling around with various plastic bags. The idea that you can take and make a form that looks like something natural out of something that's, you know, petroleum based and completely destructive, and have that in this landscape, that's kind of important, because the landscape itself seems very picturesque, but you know, these are the things that we use on a daily basis that are the antithesis to this kind of idea. All of these different modes of representation get introduced into the sculptural mix, and it's kind of left to the viewer to negotiate how those things blend together. And if I just made beautiful paintings, what I'm trying to get at within the work would be lost. You know, so if I can introduce as much garbage as possible from the land into the work, that kind of reflects on the state of land today, as well as making the painting a little bit more realistic to me. I want it to feel like I'm present in the land in general, you know, and it contains all of the thoughts that I have. I think that's how I want to just keep making it more and more realistic in that sense. When I look at a landscape painting, I think that's like 1/12 of the story.
Gregory Euclid recently wrapped up shows in Minneapolis, Miami, and New York. His art is also featured on the covers of several Bon Iver albums. To find out more, visit GregoryEuclid.com. Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York is one of the world's most prestigious colleges of art, design, and architecture. Its alumni and faculty have collectively produced works of art, design, and architecture that have changed the world.
The Design Incubator is really focusing on transitioning designers into design entrepreneurs. You have these creative, talented people starting enterprises, being entrepreneurs, and this is a place where they can come in and they can figure out how to do this. We want to do things that are environmentally better, socially better, and so it's those values that connect us all.
You know, when we started, we didn't know a lot about how to start a business, and the incubator and its resources has allowed for us to gain that education in a safe environment. We're looking at one of our first prototypes of Solar Ivy, and Solar Ivy is a system of solar panels or photovoltaics that interact with our built environment such that they can be tuned to be optimized for capturing energy and producing electricity while looking like ivy on the side of a building.
Designing Hope is an interdisciplinary design firm that works with nonprofits and social ventures, and we use design as a tool to help these organizations make a positive impact. We've been working with Telonia. They are a nonprofit artisan group based out of India, and we've been working with their designers in a collaborative way to help bring a level of sophistication to their already existing craft work, which gives them market access in North America.
In the Design Incubator, we're really quite practical. And I think that was one of Charles Pratt's ideas, was this idea of being able to train people to go out and do things in a practical way.
Now celebrating its 125th year, Pratt Institute is helping its design students make a meaningful impact throughout the world, teaching students to use their skills to create sustainable products and socially responsible companies. For more arts and culture, visit azpbs.org/artbeat, where you'll find featured videos and information on the Arizona art scene. Funding for Artbeat Nation was made possible by contributions to aid from viewers like you. Thank you.